Han walked through the long metal hallways of Nexus Prime with a toolbox in his hand. His blue work clothes were old and had small stains on them. Nobody looked at him. Nobody ever looked at him. This was exactly how he wanted it. Nexus Prime was the biggest space station in this part of the galaxy. It was like a small city floating in space. Aliens from dozens of different worlds came here to trade, make deals, and hold meetings. The station was so big that it took 30 minutes to walk from one end to the other. Han had been working here for 2 years. His job was simple: fix broken things. Air filters, lights, computers, doors. When something stopped working, people called maintenance. Han would come, fix it, and leave. Most beings never remembered his face. The hallway he walked through now was called Level 7. This was where the important aliens had their offices. Big glass windows showed the black space outside, filled with stars and spaceships coming and going. Han stopped at a wall panel. The small computer screen was flickering. He opened his toolbox and took out a small device. To anyone watching, it looked like he was just fixing a broken screen. But Han's fingers moved in a special way. He was not just fixing, he was making it better. The screen stopped flickering. Now it would work for 10 years instead of 2. It would also run faster and use less power. But nobody would notice these changes. They would just think it was working normally. Han put his tools back and walked on. He had 12 more jobs to do today. In the main meeting hall, something important was happening. Leaders from all the major alien races were sitting around a huge round table. Their voices were loud and worried. 3 more colonies are gone, said Commander Veltar. He was from the Saurian race, tall, green, and covered in scales like a giant lizard. His yellow eyes were angry. The Void Hunters destroyed everything. No survivors. High Counselor Thex clicked her mandibles together. She looked like a giant insect with 4 arms and big black eyes. "We must find a way to stop them," she said in her buzzing voice, "or we will all die." The Void Hunters were the galaxy's greatest fear. They were a mysterious race that came from the dark space between stars. Nobody knew what they looked like. They would appear without warning, destroy entire planets, and then disappear again. Their ships were strange. They seemed to be alive, changing shape during battle. Captain Roth stood up. Half of his body was machine, half was flesh. Red lights blinked where his eyes should be. "My calculations show they will attack again within 1 month," he said in a voice like metal grinding. "We need to prepare our defenses." At the back of the room, 3 humans sat quietly. They were not important enough to sit at the main table. Most aliens thought humans were weak. Humans had no natural weapons like claws or poison. They were not as strong as Saurians, not as smart as mechanoids, and could not read minds like some other races. Admiral Choi Wu was the leader of the human delegation. He was trying his best to help. "We could try talking to them," he suggested. "Maybe they want something we can give them." The aliens looked at him like he was stupid. Commander Veltar laughed, showing his sharp teeth. "You cannot talk to destroyers, human. They only understand strength." High Counselor Thex nodded her. "Insect head. Humans are too soft for war. You should leave this to races that know how to fight." The human said nothing more. They knew it was no use arguing. 3 levels below, Han was fixing a water recycling unit. The machine was working, but Han could see it was not efficient. He opened a hidden panel that most technicians did not even know existed. His hands moved quickly over the controls inside. The machine started working better immediately. It would now clean water twice as fast and use half the energy. But again, nobody would notice. They would just think it was a good machine. Han's wrist communicator beeped. "Maintenance to Section 12, broken air filter." "On my way," Han replied in a quiet voice. As he walked to Section 12, Han passed a security checkpoint. Park Nari was on duty. She was the head of station security, a smart woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She watched Han as he walked by. "Working late again, Han?" she asked. Broken things do not fix themselves, Han replied with a small smile. Nari nodded, but something bothered her. She had been watching the maintenance reports lately. Small things that did not make sense. Systems that should break down were working perfectly. Equipment that should need replacement was running like new, and it all seemed to happen after Han worked on them. Han reached Section 12 and found the broken air filter. It was making loud noises and blowing warm air instead of cool air. He opened his toolbox again. To fix this filter normally would take 2 hours. Han fixed it in 20 minutes, but he did not stop there. He opened other panels, adjusted settings, and made tiny changes that would make the entire air system work better. When he was done, Section 12 would have the cleanest air on the station. The temperature would always be perfect, and the system would run for 20 years without needing major repairs. But Han's work reports would only say, fixed noisy air filter. Time, 20 minutes. Han finished his work and walked back toward his quarters. The station was quieter now. Most of the day shift workers had gone home. Only security guards and night shift workers were still around. As he walked, Han thought about the meeting he had heard about. The alien leaders were scared. They were right to be scared. The Void Hunters were coming, and they were more dangerous than anyone realized. But the aliens were making a big mistake. They thought strength meant big muscles, sharp teeth, or powerful weapons. They did not understand that real strength could be quiet. Real strength could be invisible. Han reached his quarters and pressed his hand on the door scanner. The door opened with a soft sound. His room looked normal. A bed, a desk, a small kitchen area, just like any other maintenance worker's room. But when Han sat at his desk and touched a hidden switch, everything changed. The walls around him came alive with light. Holographic displays appeared in the air, showing star maps, ship movements, and technical diagrams. Information flowed across the screens. Data about Void Hunter attacks, alien fleet positions, and station systems. Han was not just a maintenance worker. He had been preparing for war. For 2 years, while aliens argued in meetings and made plans, Han had been quietly making the station stronger. Every repair he made, every system he touched, was part of a bigger plan. He was turning Nexus Prime into something the aliens could not imagine. A fortress that looked like a civilian station. Han studied the data on his screens. The Void Hunters' attack patterns, their ship designs, their weaknesses. He had been collecting this information for months, putting together pieces that others missed. His fingers moved over the holographic controls. New information appeared. The real-time status of every system he had modified on the station. Power grids, communications, weapons, shields, life support. All of them were now connected in ways that no one else knew about. The aliens thought humans were weak because they did not roar or show their claws. But Han knew something they did not understand. The most dangerous weapon was not the one that looked scary. The most dangerous weapon was the one that nobody noticed until it was too late. Han smiled as he looked at his secret displays. Let the aliens make their loud plans and wave their weapons. While they were talking, he was preparing, and when the Void Hunters came, they would learn what real human strength looked like. It would not look like strength at all. It would look like an ordinary maintenance worker doing his job until the moment it was time to show them how wrong they were. Park Nari could not sleep. She sat in her security office at 3 a.m, looking at computer screens full of maintenance reports. Something was wrong, but she could not figure out what. For the past 6 months, equipment on Nexus Prime had been working too well. Air filters that should last 2 years were still running perfectly after 4 years. Power systems that needed daily checks were running for weeks without problems. Computer networks were faster than they should be. And every time she checked, the records Kim Han had worked on these systems recently. Nari rubbed her tired eyes and looked at another report. Last week, Han had spent 30 minutes fixing a broken communication relay in Section 8. But the relay had not been broken. The work order said it was making strange noises, but when Nari checked the security recordings, she heard no strange noises. She pulled up the video of Han working. He opened the relay panel and his hands moved quickly over the controls inside. Too quickly. No normal maintenance worker could work that fast and still do good work. But the relay was working perfectly now. Better than perfect. Nari made a note. In her personal file, check Han's background again. 3 levels up, in the main meeting hall, the alien leaders were having another emergency meeting. This time, they had bad news. The Kepler system is gone, Commander Veltar announced. His scaly face was grim. 4 planets, 2 billion people. The Void Hunters hit them yesterday. High Counselor Thex's antenna twitched with fear. That is only 6 light years from here, she said. They are getting closer. Captain Roth projected a holographic map in the center of the table. Red dots showed where the Void Hunters had attacked. Look at the pattern, he said in his mechanical voice. They are not attacking randomly. They are moving toward something. Admiral Choi Woo studied the map carefully. What are they moving toward? He asked. Us, said Commander Veltar. They are coming for Nexus Prime. The room went quiet. Nexus Prime was the most important station in this part of the galaxy. If it was destroyed, trade between dozens of worlds would stop. Millions of beings would die. We need to evacuate, said High Counselor Thex. Get everyone off the station and run. No, growled Commander Veltar. We fight. My fleet can hold them off. Captain Roth's red eyes blinked. Negative. Your fleet has 0.3% chance of victory against Void Hunter forces. The aliens began arguing loudly. Some wanted to fight, others wanted to run. Admiral Choi Woo tried to suggest a diplomatic solution, but nobody listened to him. While they argued, Han was working in the lower levels of the station. He was in the main power control room, supposedly replacing old circuit boards. But he was doing much more than that. Han opened a panel that was not supposed to exist. Inside were controls that no normal maintenance worker should know about. His fingers danced over switches and buttons, making tiny adjustments to the power flow throughout the entire station. Excuse me, said a voice behind him. Han turned around. Li Min was standing in the doorway. He was a young human engineer new to the station. His eyes were wide with surprise. That panel is not in any of the technical manuals, Li Min said. How did you know it was there? Han looked at the young man for a long moment, then he made a decision. Come here, Han said quietly. I will show you something. Li Min walked over nervously. Han pointed to the hidden controls. These systems are connected to everything on the station. Power, communications, life support, weapons. But they are hidden so that most people cannot find them. Why? Li Min asked. Because sometimes you need to make changes that others would not understand, Han replied. He flipped a series of switches in a complex pattern. What do you see happening? Li Min watched the displays around the room. The power output just increased by 15%, but the energy consumption stayed the same. That should be impossible. Many things are impossible until you know how to do them, Han said. He closed the hidden panel. The station is now running more efficiently, but the official reports will show normal operation. Li Min stared at Han. You are not just a maintenance worker, are you? Han smiled. I am exactly what I appear to be, a man who fixes things. But I fix them better than most people expect. That evening, an emergency broadcast came through every screen on the station. The news was bad. Very bad. The broadcast showed video from the Kepler system attack. Huge ships appeared out of nowhere, ships that looked like they were alive. They were black and moved like sea creatures swimming through space. As they approached the planets, the ships changed shape, growing new parts and weapons. The defenders fought back with everything they had. Laser cannons, missile batteries, energy shields. Nothing worked. The Void Hunter ships seemed to absorb the attacks and become stronger. Worse, the defending ships began turning against each other. Their own weapons started firing at friendly targets. Their computers were being controlled by the enemy. Technological assimilation, Captain Roth explained to the shocked crowd watching the broadcast. The Void Hunters can take control of any technology they encounter. They turn your own weapons against you. Commander Veltar's face went pale under his green scales. If they can control our ships and weapons, how can we fight them? We cannot, said High Counselor Thex. We must evacuate immediately. But Admiral Choi Wu was thinking about something else. Wait, he said. Look at the video again. Watch how they take control of the defending systems. The video played again. The Void Hunter ship sent out some kind of energy wave. When it hit the defending ships, their systems began working differently. Weapons that should fire at enemies fired at friends. Shields that should protect became traps. They are not destroying the technology, Admiral Choi Wu realized. They are changing how it works, making it work for them instead of us. Yes, said Captain Roth. Complete system conversion. Very efficient. In her security office, Nari was watching the broadcast too. But she was also thinking about something else. All those systems that Han had worked on, they were working better than they should. What if that was not an accident? She pulled up Han's work schedule for the past week. He had been very busy. Communications array, power grid, defensive systems, life support. Almost like he was preparing for something. Nari grabbed her jacket and ran out of her office. She needed to find Han. She found him in the communications center working on a large control panel. His back was to her, but she could see his hands moving over the controls with impossible speed and precision. Han, she called out. He turned around, looking calm and normal. Hello, Nari. Working late again? What are you really doing here? She asked directly. Han studied her face for a moment. Then he made another decision. I am preparing, he said. Simply. Preparing for what? For war. Nari stepped closer. You knew this was coming, didn't you? The Void Hunters. Han nodded. I have been watching their attack patterns for months. They are very predictable once you understand what they want. What do they want? Control. They take over technology and use it for themselves. But they have never faced technology that fights back. Nari looked around the communications center. Everything looked normal, but she knew Han had changed things. What have you done to our systems? I have made them better, Han said. Strong enough to resist what is coming. Smart enough to adapt when the enemy tries to take control. How is that possible? Han smiled. Because I am human. We are very good at making things work better than they were designed to work. Just then, alarms began sounding throughout the station. Red lights flashed and a computerized voice announced, long-range sensors detect incoming ships. Unknown configuration. All personnel to emergency stations. Han and Nari looked at each other. They are here, Han said calmly. Through the communications center's windows, they could see distant points of light moving toward the station. The lights were getting brighter and bigger. The Void Hunters had arrived. What do we do now? Nari asked. Han walked over to a control panel she had never seen before. It had been hidden behind a maintenance cover. When he opened it, displays came to life showing the status of systems throughout the entire station. Now we find out if 2 years of preparation was enough, Han said. His fingers began moving over the controls. Outside, the alien ships were panicking. Some were trying to run away, others were forming up to fight, but most were just confused. Inside the station, Han was getting ready to show them what human preparation really looked like. The most dangerous human was about to stop being invisible. The Void Hunter ships looked like nightmares made real. They were huge and black with surfaces that moved like living skin. As they got closer to Nexus Prime, the ships began changing shape. New weapons grew from their sides like metal bones, breaking through flesh. In the main meeting hall, chaos had taken over. Alien leaders shouted orders that no one followed. Some species wanted to fight, others wanted to run, and most just wanted to hide. Commander Veltar was screaming into his communication device. All Saurian ships form attack formation. We will show these monsters what real warriors can do. High Counselor Thex was clicking her mandibles rapidly, a sign of extreme fear. My people are evacuating to the inner systems. This station is doomed. Captain Roth stood perfectly still, his mechanical eyes processing data. Enemy ships number 47. Station defenses inadequate. Survival probability 2.3%. Admiral Choi Woo tried to keep everyone calm. Maybe we should contact them first. Try to negotiate. The aliens looked at him like he was insane. Commander Veltar laughed bitterly. Negotiate with planet killers? You humans understand nothing about war. But in the communications center, Han was not panicking. He stood in front of his hidden control panel, watching displays that showed every system on the station. His fingers moved calmly over the controls. Nari watched him with amazement. How are you so calm? Those ships could destroy us in minutes. They could, Han agreed. If this was a normal station with normal defenses. What do you mean? Han pointed to one of his displays. It showed the station's power grid, but it looked nothing like the official blueprints. Instead of simple connections, there was a complex web of energy flowing between systems. For 2 years I have been connecting everything, Han explained. Power systems, communications, weapons, shields, life support. They all work together now like parts of one big machine. Nari stared at the display. The aliens do not know about this? They see what they expect to see. A maintenance worker, fixing broken things. They do not look deeper. Outside, the first Void Hunter ship opened fire. A green energy beam shot toward the station. Everyone expected the shields to fail immediately. Instead, something strange happened. The beam hit the shield, but instead of breaking through, it seemed to bounce around. The energy spread across the shield surface and then disappeared. In the meeting hall, Captain Roth's mechanical eyes flickered. Impossible. Shield absorption rate is 347% above design specifications. Commander Veltar stopped shouting orders and stared at the tactical display. How are our shields doing that? Nobody had an answer. The Void Hunters tried again. This time they fired from 3 ships at once. The beams were stronger and came from different angles. Any normal shield would collapse. But Nexus Prime's shields did not collapse. They bent and twisted, redirecting the energy in ways that should not be possible. Some of the energy was absorbed, some was reflected, and some seemed to just vanish. The shields are learning, whispered High Counselor Thex. They are adapting to each attack. In the communications center, Li Min had joined Han and Nari. The young engineer was watching Han's displays with wide eyes. This is incredible, Li Min said. You have turned the entire station into one integrated system. But how? The different alien technologies should not be compatible. Han smiled. That is where humans are different. Other races are specialists. Saurians build strong weapons. Mantoids make smart computers. Mechanoids create efficient machines. But humans are generalists. What does that mean? Nari asked. It means we see connections that others miss. We can make things work together even when they were not designed to work together. Han's fingers danced over the controls. On his displays, Nari could see systems throughout the station responding to his commands. Not just responding, they were working together like a perfectly coordinated team. The Void Hunters were getting frustrated. Their energy weapons were not working, so they tried something different. They fired strange black projectiles at the station. These projectiles were their most dangerous weapon. When they hit enemy ships, they would burrow inside and take control of the ship's systems. The ship would then turn its weapons on its own allies. But when the black projectiles hit Nexus Prime, something unexpected happened. Instead of taking control of the systems, they seemed to get lost. The station's computers were too complex, too interconnected. The projectiles could not figure out what to control. Technological assimilation failing, Captain Roth announced, in amazement. Enemy control systems unable to interface with station networks. Commander Veltar was staring at his tactical display in shock. How is this possible? These weapons have never failed before. In his hidden command center, Han was remembering his past. Years ago, he had been part of a special human military unit. They were called Ghost Engineers, soldiers who could infiltrate enemy systems and turn them against their owners. The unit was disbanded when humans joined the peaceful Galactic Confederation. Han's skills were considered too dangerous for civilian life, so he became a maintenance worker and tried to forget his training, but he never really forgot. And when he started seeing patterns in the Void Hunter attacks, he knew his old skills would be needed again. Li Min, Han said without looking away from his displays. Remember what I showed you about connecting incompatible systems? Yes, the young engineer replied. I need you to go to Section 15 and find the backup power controls. Make the same modifications I showed you in the main power room, but I have never done anything that complex before. Han finally looked at him. You are human. Complex problems are what we solve best. Trust your instincts. Li Min nodded and ran out of the communications center. The Void Hunters were trying everything now. Energy weapons, control projectiles, even ramming attacks with smaller ships. Nothing was working. The station's defenses adapted to each new attack faster than the enemy could change tactics. But Han knew this was just the beginning. The Void Hunters were still testing the station's defenses. Soon they would try their most powerful weapons. Nari, he said, I need you to coordinate with the security teams. Tell them to watch for boarding parties. The Void Hunters will try to get inside the station when their long-range attacks fail. What about the alien fleets? Should they help defend us? Hani looked at his tactical display. The alien ships were scattered around the station, some trying to fight, others running away, most just confused about what to do. Tell them to stay back, Han said. The Void Hunters can take control of their ships, but they cannot take control of ours. Why not? Because our systems are not just connected, they are protected. I have spent 2 years building defenses that the Void Hunters have never encountered before. Outside, the largest Void Hunter ship was preparing something new. Its surface was changing, growing into a massive cannon that pulsed with dark energy. Unknown weapon charging, Captain Roth announced. Energy levels exceed all previous readings. In the meeting hall, the alien leaders finally stopped arguing and started praying to their various gods. But Han was not praying. He was working. His fingers flew over the controls as he made final adjustments to the station's defenses. What is that ship doing? Nari asked. Preparing to show us their real power, Han replied calmly. And we are about to show them ours. While massive cannon on the Void Hunter ship finished charging, dark energy swirled around its opening like a miniature black hole. Here it comes, Han said. The cannon fired. A beam of pure darkness shot toward Nexus Prime. It was not just an energy weapon. It was something that destroyed the very structure of matter itself. Any normal station would be completely erased. But Nexus Prime was not normal anymore. The dark beam hit the station's shields and something amazing happened. Instead of being destroyed, the shields began to glow. Not with normal light, but with something deeper. The darkness was being transformed into light. All across the galaxy, sensors registered what should have been impossible. A human-modified space station had just turned a planet-killing weapon into pure energy and absorbed it. The Void Hunters had never seen anything like it, and they were about to learn that the quiet human in the maintenance uniform was the most dangerous enemy they had ever faced. The Void Hunter fleet stopped moving. For the first time in their history, they had encountered something they could not understand. Their most powerful weapon had been absorbed and turned into energy for their enemy. Inside Nexus Prime, the lights were brighter than ever before. The station was using the dark energy from the Void Hunter weapon to power its systems. Every corridor, every room was filled with clean, bright light. In the main meeting hall, the alien leaders stood in shocked silence. Captain Roth's mechanical eyes were blinking rapidly as he tried to process what had happened. Energy absorption impossible according to all known physics, he said in his metal voice. Station power levels now at 400% of maximum capacity. Commander. Veltar was staring at his tactical display with his mouth open. How did a maintenance station just absorb a planet-killer weapon? High Counselor Thex's antennae were twitching with confusion. This should not be possible. What have the humans done? Admiral Choi Woo was the only one who was not surprised. He had suspected for a long time that humans were hiding their true abilities. Maybe, he said quietly, we are not as weak as you thought. In the communications center, Han was watching his displays with satisfaction. Everything was working, exactly as he had planned. The station's defenses were not just holding, they were getting stronger with each attack. The Void Hunters are confused, Nari observed, watching the enemy ships on the tactical screen. They have stopped attacking. They are trying to understand. What happened? Han explained. Their technology is designed to take control of other systems. But our systems are not just defended, they are actively fighting back. Li Min had returned from Section 15, his face excited. I did what you asked. The backup power system is now connected to the main grid. But Han, how did you know this would work? Han smiled. Because I understand what makes humans different from other races. We do not just use technology, we improve it. We do not just follow rules, we find better ways. On his displays, Han could see the status of every system he had modified over the past 2 years. Power grids, communication networks, weapons, systems, life support. Everything was connected and working together like parts of one giant machine. But this was not just any machine. It was a machine that could think, learn, and adapt. Han had not just connected the systems, he had taught them to work together intelligently. Show me what you mean, Nari said. Han pointed to one of his displays. Watch the shield generators. See how they are sharing power between different sections? That is not programmed behavior. The system learned to do that by watching the Void Hunter attacks. The shields are learning. Everything is learning. The weapon systems are studying. Void Hunter ship designs. The sensors are tracking their movement patterns. The computers are analyzing their technology. In another hour, we will know more about the Void Hunters than they know about themselves. Outside, the Void Hunter ships were trying a different approach. Instead of using their big weapons, they were releasing thousands of smaller ships. These looked like metal insects, designed to get inside the station and take control from within. But as soon as the small ships got close to Nexus Prime, something strange happened. The station's defensive systems opened fire, but not with normal weapons. Instead, they used modified mining lasers, construction tools, and even maintenance robots. Han had turned every piece of equipment on the station into a weapon. The maintenance robots flew through space like tiny fighters, using their welding torches to cut apart the Void Hunter boarding craft. Mining lasers designed to cut through asteroids sliced through enemy ships like paper. Even the garbage disposal systems had been turned into projectile weapons. This is incredible, Li Min said, watching the displays. You turned a civilian station into a fortress. Not a fortress, Han corrected. Something better. A fortress just sits and defends. This station fights back. In the meeting hall, the alien leaders were finally beginning to understand. Commander Veltar looked at Admiral Choi Woo with new respect. Your maintenance worker, he said slowly. He is not really a maintenance worker, is he? Admiral Choi Woo shook his head. I am beginning to think that none of our maintenance workers are just maintenance workers. High Counselor Thex was studying the tactical displays. Look at how the station's systems are coordinating. This level of integration should take years to achieve. How long has this human been preparing? Long enough, said Admiral Choi Woo. The battle was turning into something the galaxy had never seen before. The Void Hunters, who had destroyed entire civilizations, were being beaten by a space station that was supposed to be defenseless. But Han knew the real fight was just beginning. The Void Hunters had more ships coming and they would not give up easily. Nari, he said, I need you to send a message to all the alien fleets around the station. Tell them to form a defensive perimeter but stay at least 50 kilometers away from us. Why so far away? Because I am going to do something that will surprise everyone, including the Void Hunters. Han's fingers moved over his controls, activating systems that had been hidden even deeper than the others. Deep in the station's core, machines that no one knew existed began to wake up. These were not normal station systems. These were weapons that Han had built in secret, using technology from a dozen different races. But he had not just copied alien technology. He had improved it, combined it, made it better. The station began to change. Metal panels on the outside started moving, revealing new structures underneath. Weapons that looked like they belonged on the biggest warships emerged from hidden compartments, but these were not normal weapons. They were human-designed weapons, built with human understanding of how to make things work better than they should. "Impossible," whispered Captain Roth. "Sensors detect weapons systems with power levels exceeding Saurian battlecruisers." Commander Veltar stared at the displays. How did a human hide battleship weapons inside a civilian station? "Very carefully," said Admiral Choi Woo. The largest Void Hunter ship was preparing another attack. Its surface was changing again, growing new weapons and armor. But this time, Han was ready to show them what human engineering could really do. "All station weapons target the command ship," Han said into his communication system. "Let them see what happens when humans stop being polite." The station's hidden weapons opened fire all at once. But these were not normal energy beams or missiles. These were weapons that used principles the aliens had never seen before. One weapon fired bursts of pure gravity, crushing enemy ships like tin cans. Another shot beams that made metal turn to dust. A third launched projectiles that passed through enemy shields like they did not exist. The Void Hunter command ship, which had seemed unstoppable, suddenly found itself being torn apart by weapons it could not understand or defend against. "How is this possible?" High Counselor Thex asked in amazement. Han's voice came over the station's communication system, calm and quiet. "Because while you were arguing about politics, we were learning how to win wars." For the first time in their history, the Void Hunters began to retreat. Their ships turned away from Nexus Prime and started moving back toward deep space. But Han was not done with them yet. "Nari," he said, "send a message to the Void Hunter fleet." "What should I tell them?" Han smiled. "Tell them that if they ever attack a human world or a human friend again, they will learn what human anger really looks like." The message was sent. A few minutes later, the last Void Hunter ship disappeared into space, running faster than they had ever run before. In the meeting hall, the alien leaders sat in stunned silence. Commander Veltar was the first to speak. "We have been very stupid," he said quietly. High Counselor Thex nodded her insect head. "We thought humans were weak because they do not look dangerous." Captain Roth's mechanical voice was thoughtful. "Observation. The most effective weapons are often the ones that do not appear to be weapons." Admiral Choi Woo stood up and straightened his uniform. "Gentlemen and ladies," he said, "I think it is time we had a new conversation about humanity's role in this galaxy." But down in the communications center, Han was already back to work, checking his systems and making small improvements. Because the war was not over. It was just beginning. And now the galaxy knew that the most dangerous humans were the ones nobody noticed until it was too late. 3 weeks after the Void Hunter attack, Nexus Prime was a very different place. The station looked the same from the outside, but everything had changed on the inside. Park Nari was no longer just the security chief. She was now the director of human integration, a new job created after the aliens realized they needed to understand humans better. She sat in her new office, reading reports that would have seemed impossible a month ago. Every human maintenance worker, every human engineer, every human technician on the station had been part of Han's network. Not just on Nexus Prime, but on dozens of stations and ships throughout the galaxy. "It is incredible," Li Min said, sitting across from her desk. He was now the assistant director of human engineering. "For years we have been quietly improving alien technology and nobody noticed." Nari looked at a map showing human workers throughout the galaxy. Little dots of light marked every station, every ship, every facility where humans worked in maintenance or engineering roles. They were not just working, she realized. They were preparing, all of them. Han said it was just in case, Li Min explained. "Humans have a saying, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. While everyone else was hoping for peace, we were preparing for war. In the main meeting hall, a very different kind of meeting was taking place. The alien leaders were no longer arguing about what to do about humans. Instead, they were asking humans what they should do about everything else. Commander Veltar stood up when Admiral Choi Woo entered the room. This was new. A week ago, the Saurian would never have shown respect to a human. Admiral, Commander Veltar said, we have received reports of Void Hunter activity in the Outer Rim. 3 more systems are under threat. Admiral Choi Woo nodded and sat down at the main table. This was also new. Humans now had seats at the main table. What do our human technical advisors recommend? Asked High Counselor Thex. We recommend letting us handle it. Admiral Choi Woo said simply. Captain Roth's mechanical eyes blinked. Clarification. Do you mean human military forces? I mean human maintenance workers, Admiral Choi Woo replied with a small smile. The aliens looked confused, but they were learning not to question human methods. Deep in the station, Han was back to his normal routine. He walked through the corridors, with his toolbox, fixing things that needed fixing. But now other humans walked with him. Young engineers like Li Min, older technicians who had been hiding their skills, even some aliens who wanted to learn human methods. The key, Han was explaining to a group of students, is not to think about what a machine is supposed to do. Think about what it could do if it was better. He stopped at a water recycling unit and opened its control panel. This machine is designed to clean water, but what if it could also generate power? What if it could produce nutrients? What if it could do 5 jobs instead of 1? A young mantoid engineer raised one of her 4 arms. But that would require changing the fundamental design. Yes, Han said. That is what humans do. We change things to make them better. He made a few adjustments to the water recycler. When he was done, it was not just cleaning water. It was also generating electrical power and creating useful chemicals as byproducts. How did you know how to do that? Asked a Saurian technician. Because I understand that everything is connected, Han replied. Water, power, chemistry, life support. They are all part of one big system. Humans are good at seeing the whole system, not just the individual parts. In another part of the station, something else was happening. Alien engineers were working alongside human technicians, learning new methods. Not just learning how to fix things, but learning how to make things better. The humans call it iterative improvement, explained a mechanoid engineer to his team. You do not just maintain a system, you make it a little better each time you work on it. These mixed teams were spreading throughout the galaxy, on every station, every ship, every facility. Aliens and humans were working together to make everything better. But the most important change was happening in the minds of the alien leaders. They were finally understanding what humans really were. We made a mistake, Commander Veltar said during a private meeting with Admiral Choi Woo. We thought strength meant big muscles and sharp teeth. We thought intelligence meant fast computers and complex mathematics. Those things are important, Admiral Choi Woo agreed. But they are not the only kinds of strength and intelligence. On human agar, strength is different, High Counselor Thex added. It is the strength to make everything around you stronger. Captain Roth nodded his mechanical head. Human intelligence is the intelligence to see possibilities that others miss. Admiral Choi Woo smiled. We call it systems thinking. We do not just see individual problems, and we see how everything fits together. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication. Nari's voice came through the speakers. Admiral, we have received a message from the Void Hunter fleet. Everyone in the room tensed. The Void Hunters had been quiet since their defeat at Nexus Prime, but everyone knew they would return. What do they say? Admiral Choi Woo asked. They want to negotiate, Nari replied. The aliens looked shocked. The Void Hunters had never negotiated with anyone before. What do they want to negotiate about? Asked Commander Veltar. Surrender. Terms, Nari said. Their surrender terms. The room went quiet. Then Admiral Choi Woo started laughing. Soon all the humans in the room were laughing too. What is so funny? High Counselor Thex asked. They want to surrender, Admiral Choi Woo explained, because they finally understand what they are really fighting. Which is what? The most dangerous weapon in the galaxy, Admiral Choi Woo said. Human curiosity, the desire to make everything work better than it was designed to work. A year later, the galaxy was a very different place. The Void Hunters had indeed surrendered, but not in the way anyone expected. Instead of being destroyed or imprisoned, they were given jobs. It turned out that Void Hunters were very good at breaking down old, inefficient systems. When paired with humans who were good at building better systems, they became an unstoppable team for galactic improvement. Han was still a maintenance worker. He still walked through corridors with his toolbox, still fixed things that were broken. But now everyone knew what he really was, not just a maintenance worker, but a guardian of the galaxy. One of thousands of humans who had quietly prepared for threats that others could not see coming. Do you ever regret staying hidden for so long? Nari asked him one day as they watched the sunset through the station's main windows. Han thought about it for a moment. No, he said finally. The most effective protection is the kind that nobody notices until they need it. And now? Now the galaxy knows that humans are not weak, Han replied. But they also know that we are not enemies. We are the people who make everything work better. He picked up his toolbox and started walking toward his next job. Besides, he called back to Nari, there is always something that needs fixing. Nari watched him go, this ordinary-looking man who had changed the course of galactic history. She finally understood the human saying that Han had taught her. The most dangerous weapon is not the one that destroys everything. It is the one that makes everything better. And in a galaxy full of beings who specialized in one thing or another, the humans had specialized in the most dangerous skill of all, making specialists work together. They had become the invisible glue that held the galaxy together and the quiet force that made everything stronger. Just the way they had always been, since the day they first picked up a tool and decided to make it work better. The most lethal humans were still the least noticed ones, and that was exactly how they liked it. The end.